Since when does the mop pusher think he belongs at this table? Vivian Harrow's voice rang across the boardroom, sharp and cutting as she turned toward Isaiah Brooks. You're here to scrub stains, not solve problems. A few executives chuckled, eyes sliding over his faded Navy uniform, sleeves stiff from a night of scrubbing floors. Isaiah stood still, hands steady at his sides. Vivian stepped closer, heels striking the marble like a gavel delivering sentence. She pressed the lifeless monitor against his chest. "Fix this computer, and I'll marry you," she announced, smiling for the phones already raised around the table. "When you fail, you're back to pushing that cart where you belong." None of them realized the quiet man they were humiliating understood exactly what that stalled system was hiding. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. Isaiah's shoes squeaked against the polished floor as he guided his mop bucket through the empty executive level. The midnight silence felt heavy, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights above the glass-walled boardrooms. He'd cleaned these floors for 3 years now, memorizing every corner and scratch in the expensive decor. A burst of voices shattered the quiet. The double doors of the main conference room flew open as Vivian Harrow stormed out, her designer heels clicking rapidly against marble. Behind her, a group of suited executives and board members spilled into the hallway, their faces a mix of concern and barely hidden amusement. "This is completely unacceptable." Vivian clutched a sleek laptop to her chest. "The Singapore presentation starts in 30 minutes, and this piece of garbage won't even turn on." Isaiah kept his movements steady, continuing to mop in measured strokes. He'd learned long ago that invisibility was safer than acknowledgement in moments like these. But Vivian's sharp eyes caught his presence, and a cruel smile spread across her face. "Well, look who it is. The help." She gestured toward Isaiah with a manicured hand. "Perfect timing. Maybe you can make yourself useful for once." The group of executives shifted, some straightening their expensive suits, others pulling out their phones with poorly concealed grins. Isaiah noticed at least 3 devices tilting up to record whatever was about to unfold. "You know what?" Vivian's voice dripped with mock sweetness. "I have a wonderful proposition for you. If you can fix this laptop," she held it out like it was beneath her to touch, "I'll marry you. Wouldn't that be just delightful?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, she didn't." Another executive added, "Classic Vivian." Isaiah felt Security Chief Brent Kellen's presence before he saw him. The man materialized at his side, placing a heavy hand on Isaiah's shoulder. The touch lingered, a subtle threat wrapped in procedure. "Ma'am," Isaiah said, keeping his voice perfectly level, "I'd be happy to take a look at your computer." He didn't acknowledge the joke or the phones recording his humiliation. His eyes stayed focused on the laptop. Vivian's perfect eyebrows arched. "Oh, would you? How generous." She placed the laptop on the conference room table with exaggerated care. "Please, by all means, show us your expertise." Her tone made it clear she expected entertainment, not results. Isaiah approached the table, aware of every eye following his movement. Brent's hand finally released his shoulder, but the security chief positioned himself nearby, arms crossed, watching like a bouncer sizing up trouble at an exclusive club. The laptop was a high-end model, its sleek chassis warm to the touch. Too warm. Isaiah's fingers detected the excessive heat immediately, and his ears picked up the subtle whine of stressed components. When he pressed the power button, the machine attempted to restart, but quickly died again. A faint odor of hot electronics reached his nose, the kind of smell that often preceded component failure. "Having trouble?" Vivian's voice cut through his concentration. "Perhaps this is a bit above your pay grade?" More chuckles from the audience. Isaiah didn't respond. He'd diagnosed hundreds of systems in his previous life before downsizing, and medical bills had pushed him into janitorial work. His fingers moved with practiced precision, though no one in the room seemed to notice the expertise in his movements. "Should we call actual IT?" someone suggested from the back of the group. "Oh, let him try," Vivian said. "It's important to encourage initiative." The pause before the last word drew another round of snickers. Isaiah pulled out the chair and sat down at the conference table, a piece of furniture he usually only touched with cleaning supplies. The polished surface reflected the overhead lights, and he could see his own face dimly mirrored in its shine. He kept his expression neutral as he worked. The laptop's case showed subtle signs of tampering, microscopic scratches around the edges that shouldn't have been there. The battery was critically low, but that wasn't the real problem. The encrypted drive was failing, likely due to recent unauthorized access attempts. He began the careful process of stabilizing the system. Safe boot, BIOS check, recovery mode navigation. His fingers moved across the keyboard with muscle memory that hadn't faded despite years away from tech work. The group's amusement gradually shifted to confusion as they watched him work. Vivian's smirk began to fade at the edges as minutes ticked by without the failure she'd clearly anticipated. Finally, the screen flickered to life. The laptop's fan quieted to a normal hum, and the login screen appeared, pristine and functional. Isaiah's reflection in the polished table showed the same calm expression he'd maintained throughout the ordeal. Vivian's perfectly composed smile tightened at the corners. Her eyes narrowed as she stared at the working screen, something close to panic flashing across her face before she masked it with practiced control. The phones that had been recording slowly lowered, their owners suddenly unsure if they'd captured the entertainment they'd expected. Brent shifted his weight, his bouncer's stance momentarily uncertain. In the silence that followed, Isaiah's voice remained steady. "Will there be anything else, Ms. Harrow?" Isaiah's fingers moved carefully across the keyboard, aware of the executives hovering behind him like vultures waiting for a show. The laptop's fan settled into a steady rhythm as he navigated through basic diagnostics. He kept his movements deliberate, touching nothing that wasn't directly related to system recovery. "This is taking forever," one of the executives muttered. "Some of us have actual work to do." Isaiah ignored the comment, focusing on the screen. The drive was stabilizing, and the encryption layer was re-establishing itself properly. He'd seen this kind of issue before. Someone had tried forcing access without proper credentials, triggering security protocols that nearly bricked the system. "Perhaps we should just call—" Vivian started, but her words cut off as the screen suddenly blazed to life. The silence that followed wasn't the awkward quiet of failed entertainment. It was the sharp, dangerous silence of people seeing something they shouldn't. The laptop had restored to its last active window, and what a window it was! An email chain sprawled across the screen, names and numbers jumping out like accusations. Next to it, a folder tree displayed file names that read like a roadmap of corporate misconduct. One spreadsheet's title caught Isaiah's eye: Q4 Restructure Model Final. Innocent-looking enough, except for the matching dates and numbers that flickered past. Vivian's reflection in the screen showed pure panic for a fraction of a second. Her carefully maintained composure cracked, revealing something raw and frightened underneath. Then, like a shield slamming into place, rage replaced the fear. She lunged forward and slammed the laptop shut with such force that several executives flinched. "What did you see?" Her voice came out low and venomous, all pretense of playful mockery gone. She leaned close to Isaiah, her expensive perfume sharp in his nostrils. "Answer me. What exactly did you see?" Isaiah kept his hands visible on the table, making no sudden movements. He could feel Brent Kellen shifting behind him, the security chief's presence becoming more threatening with each passing second. The phones that had been recording earlier were notably absent now. No one wanted to document this part of the encounter. "I saw enough," Isaiah said carefully, his voice steady despite the tension crackling through the room, "to know that you're afraid, Ms. Harrow." Color drained from Vivian's face. Then, like flipping a switch, she straightened and raised her voice to carry across the room. Did everyone just witness this? This janitor accessed private corporate data without authorization. She stepped back, performing shock and outrage for her audience. He deliberately tampered with executive systems. The executives, who moments ago had been happy to record Isaiah's humiliation, now nodded along with Vivian's accusations. They shifted their stances, transforming from amused spectators to concerned corporate citizens. I did no such thing, Isaiah stated calmly. I only performed basic system recovery, as requested. The screen restored to your last active. Brent! Vivian's sharp command cut through Isaiah's explanation. This man has accessed sensitive information. Handle it. Security Chief Kellen moved with practiced efficiency. His hand clamped down on Isaiah's upper arm, fingers digging in hard enough to leave bruises. In one smooth motion, he yanked Isaiah up from the chair and twisted his arm behind his back. This is standard protocol for data security incidents, Brent announced to the room, but his grip tightened unnecessarily as he spoke. Just ensuring everyone's safety. Isaiah didn't resist, but he also didn't lower his eyes. He kept his gaze steady, watching Vivian as she transformed her earlier humiliation into a weapon. Her performance was flawless, the concerned executive protecting company interests from an untrustworthy subordinate. I was trying to be kind, Vivian declared to her audience, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. Giving him a chance to prove himself, and he took advantage, tried to access private corporate data. Who knows what he was planning to do with it? The pain in Isaiah's shoulder increased as Brent adjusted his hold. The security chief was smart enough not to leave marks where cameras might see them, but his message was clear. Power had chosen its side. The system restored automatically, Isaiah said, keeping his voice level despite the discomfort. I didn't access any. Stop talking, Brent growled near his ear, applying just enough extra pressure to make Isaiah's breath catch. Vivian stepped forward, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor like a judge's gavel. Her face was a mask of corporate authority, but her eyes burned with something darker. She raised her arm, pointing at Isaiah with perfectly manicured fingers that trembled slightly. Not with fear now, but with barely contained fury. Take him to security, she ordered. Right now! The security bay's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Isaiah's face as Brent marched him through the lobby. The night cleaning crew paused their work, and late-shift employees slowed their pace, phones discreetly emerging from pockets. Isaiah kept his spine straight, despite Brent's grip forcing him forward. I want everyone to witness this, Vivian announced, her voice carrying across the marble floor. This man attempted to steal proprietary company information. She gestured at Isaiah like he was a cautionary tale. After I graciously offered him a chance to assist with a simple technical issue, Isaiah felt the weight of stares from people who'd passed him in halls for months without a glance. Now they couldn't look away, but their eyes slid past his face, avoiding direct contact. No one wanted to be associated with the accused. Brent suddenly shifted his grip, using his bulk to push Isaiah against the security desk. The edge dug into Isaiah's ribs, not enough to leave marks, but enough to make breathing uncomfortable. Stand still, Brent ordered, loud enough for the growing audience to hear. Hands where I can see them. I didn't access anything beyond basic system recovery, Isaiah stated calmly. The screen restored to your last active. He's lying, Vivian cut in smoothly. I watched him deliberately attempt to navigate through private executive folders. She turned to address the small crowd directly, her voice dripping with rehearsed concern. I tried to give him an opportunity, to treat him with respect. And this is how he repays corporate kindness, by trying to steal sensitive data. The elevator chimed, and Lila Grant from HR stepped out, her heels clicking rapidly across the lobby. She carried a tablet, her expression professionally neutral as she approached the scene. But Isaiah noticed how her eyes darted to the security camera mounted above, then to the monitor showing multiple video feeds. "Ms. Harrow," Lila said carefully, "I received an urgent call about a security incident." "Finally," Vivian snapped. "We need immediate termination paperwork. This man attempted to access restricted information after being explicitly told to perform only basic maintenance." Lila glanced at the security monitor again, focusing on the timestamp in the corner. Her fingers moved across her tablet, making quick notes. "I'll need to follow standard protocol for termination documentation. Could you walk me through the sequence of events that led to—" "Are you questioning my account?" Vivian stepped closer to Lila, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Need I remind you that your position requires absolute trust in executive testimony? Or perhaps we should discuss your own job security?" Isaiah watched Lila's face tighten, but her fingers kept moving on the tablet. She was documenting something, not just Vivian's words, but details about the camera system itself, the model number, the timestamp format, the storage protocol displayed in the corner of the monitor. "Of course not, Ms. Harrow," Lila replied smoothly. "I'm simply ensuring all documentation is properly filed to protect the company's interests." She turned to Isaiah, maintaining professional distance. "Mr. Brooks, due to the serious nature of this incident, we'll need you to surrender your badge and any company property immediately." Brent's hand tightened on Isaiah's shoulder. "Already secured his badge. Need to check his locker, too. I'd like to state for the record," Isaiah began, keeping his voice steady, "that I was asked to help with a malfunctioning laptop and performed only standard diagnostic—" "Enough!" Vivian's composure cracked for a moment, her carefully cultivated outrage giving way to raw anger. "I will not stand here and listen to more lies from the help." She turned to Lila, eyes blazing. "Process his termination now. And make sure the paperwork reflects the severity of his actions. I want it clear that he attempted to steal corporate data after I generously offered him a chance to prove his worth." More employees had gathered at the edges of the lobby, drawn by the spectacle. Vivian seemed to feed off their attention, straightening her spine and projecting authority. "Let this be a lesson," she announced. "This company rewards loyalty and punishes those who would abuse our trust." Lila's eyes flickered to the security monitor one last time, her tablet discreetly recording details about the camera system's make and model. Isaiah caught her gaze for a fraction of a second and saw something there. Not pity, but recognition. She was seeing past Vivian's performance to the ugly truth beneath. "Move," Brent ordered, shoving Isaiah toward the exit. The security chief's grip remained just shy of leaving visible marks, but his fingers dug into pressure points that sent sharp pain through Isaiah's shoulder. Isaiah walked with measured steps, refusing to be rushed despite Brent's pushing. He kept his head high, even as whispers followed him across the lobby. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing him break. "I want him blacklisted," Vivian called after them. "Make sure every security firm in the city knows what he tried to pull. No one disrespects me like this and works in this town again." The growing crowd parted as Brent marched Isaiah toward the glass doors. Behind them, Lila stood very still, her tablet held close to her chest. Her eyes tracked the camera above them, noting the exact time and angle as another piece of evidence was captured and stored in the system's memory. Outside the gleaming office tower, the night air bit with unexpected chill. Isaiah sat on a concrete planter, his hands pressed flat against the cold surface to stop their trembling. The streetlights cast harsh shadows across his face as he tried to steady his breathing, fighting back the hot surge of anger and humiliation. Heavy footsteps approached, and Dean Rourke's bulky silhouette emerged from the building's revolving door. The union representative's lined face was tight with concern as he lowered himself onto the planter beside Isaiah, his bad knee creaking. "Tell me everything," Dean said quietly. "From the start." Isaiah's voice remained measured, despite the emotion churning beneath. She made it a show. Called me the help. Said she'd marry me if I fixed her laptop. He described the scene in detail. The phone's recording, the laughter, Vivian's performative generosity turning to panic when sensitive information appeared on screen. Dean listened intently, his jaw clenching tighter with each detail. After 30 years in building operations, he'd seen this pattern before. Executives using their power to humiliate workers, then destroying anyone who glimpsed their true nature. "Classic move," Dean growled. "Strip your dignity in public, then paint you as the criminal when it backfires. Makes me sick." He pulled out his phone, already drafting notes. "We'll file a formal grievance first thing." His phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Lila Grant. Dean answered, putting it on speaker but keeping his voice low. "Lila, I had to call." Lila's whisper echoed, with barely contained panic. She was clearly trying to stay quiet, probably hidden away in some empty corridor. Vivian's in her office with legal right now. They're drafting a police report, claiming attempted theft of proprietary information. Isaiah's stomach clenched. Dean cursed under his breath. "I can't openly help," Lila continued, her words rushing together. "They'll crush me. But listen, there's footage. The lobby cameras caught everything. Her marriage proposal, the way she played to the crowd, Isaiah staying professional through all of it. It's stored in the building's secure system." "Can you get us copies?" Dean asked. "They'll know it was me, but the timestamps are logged. Camera 4, North Lobby feed, between 11:42 and 11:58 p.m. There's no way they can delete it without leaving digital tracks." Lila's voice shook. "I have to go. They're looking for me to sign off on the termination papers." The line went dead. Dean pocketed his phone, his expression grim. "They're moving fast. Want to crush you before you can fight back." Isaiah stared at his hands, still steady despite everything. "I didn't access anything I shouldn't have. The screen restored to what was already open." "Doesn't matter what's true," Dean cut in. "Matters what they can make people believe." He gripped Isaiah's shoulder. "Go home. Keep your hands clean. Write down every detail while it's fresh. Times, names, exact words used. We'll need it all." Isaiah nodded, standing slowly. His body felt heavy, like the weight of Vivian's accusations was physically pulling him down. "I should call my daughter. Let her know." "Tell her in person," Dean advised. "Some things shouldn't happen over the phone." The ride home was a blur of streetlights and churning thoughts. Isaiah's apartment building looked different somehow. Smaller, more precarious. He'd always been proud of providing this stable home for Naomi, but now uncertainty loomed like a shadow. When he opened the door, Naomi was still up studying, textbooks spread across their small dining table. She looked up with a smile that instantly faded when she saw his face. "Dad? What happened?" Isaiah tried to keep his voice steady, to project the calm strength he'd always shown her. But Naomi had her mother's perception. She saw right through to the fear in his eyes. "There was an incident at work," he began carefully, sitting across from her. "The CEO asked me to fix her laptop. When I did, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Now they're trying to paint me as the one who did something wrong." Naomi's hands clenched around her highlighter. "That's not fair." "You didn't do anything." "I need to tell you something," Isaiah interrupted gently. "Something I haven't talked about in a while." He took a deep breath. "Before the layoffs, before the medical bills, I worked in IT, cybersecurity analysis." Understanding dawned in Naomi's eyes. "That's why you could fix her laptop." Isaiah nodded. "And that's why I recognized what I saw on her screen. File structures, naming conventions. It wasn't just random corporate data. What I glimpsed," he chose his words carefully, "it mattered. And she knew it mattered the second I saw it." Naomi reached across the table, gripping his hand. "What are you going to do?" Isaiah squeezed back, drawing strength from her touch. "First, I'm going to write everything down. Every detail, every word spoken, every person present. He pulled out a notebook and pen. Dean, my union rep. He's going to help me fight this. But we need to be precise. Thorough. As he began writing, starting with the timestamp of when Vivian first stormed out of her office, Dean's final words echoed in his mind. Tomorrow morning, we fight. The pen moved steadily across the paper as Isaiah documented each moment, the humiliation, the laughter, the sudden shift to accusations. His handwriting remained clear and even, just like his voice had stayed calm throughout the ordeal. They wanted him to break, to crack, to give them an excuse. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. The pounding on the door jolted Isaiah awake at 5:47 a.m. 3 sharp, authoritative strikes that seemed to shake the whole apartment. In the hallway, Naomi emerged from her room, still in pajamas, her eyes wide with fear. "Police! Open up!" Isaiah rose slowly from his desk where he'd fallen asleep writing his statement. Papers covered in neat, precise handwriting scattered across the surface. He moved deliberately to the door, gesturing for Naomi to stay back. 2 detectives stood in the dim hallway. The older one, Detective Morris, according to his badge, held up his credentials while his partner's hand rested too casually near his holster. Isaiah Brooks? Morris's tone made it clear this wasn't really a question. "We need to discuss a complaint filed by Vivian Harrow of Harrow Financial Technologies." Isaiah kept his voice steady. "Would you like to come in?" He noticed how they were already stepping forward before he finished the invitation. The detectives surveyed the modest apartment, the stack of Naomi's textbooks, the family photos, Isaiah's perfectly organized desk. Morris's partner positioned himself near the kitchen, cutting off easy access to the back rooms. "Ms. Harrow reports you attempted to access restricted executive data during an unauthorized interaction with her personal device," Morris said, pulling out a notepad. "Care to explain that?" Isaiah sat straight in his chair, hands visible on the table. "I'd like everything documented in writing, please. And I'd like to know if I'm being formally charged with anything." Morris's eyes narrowed slightly. "Just gathering information at this stage. But cooperation now could make things easier later." "I understand," Isaiah replied. "I'm happy to cooperate fully. Would you like me to start with the exact time Ms. Harrow approached me on the executive floor?" The detective's pen hesitated. He hadn't expected such precise recall. "Go ahead." At approximately 11:42 p.m., Ms. Harrow emerged from Boardroom C with her executive team. She was holding her laptop and speaking loudly about a presentation failure. She spotted me cleaning and... Isaiah recounted each detail with careful neutrality. The marriage proposal, the witnesses with phones recording, his professional response. "You expect us to believe a CEO personally invited you to handle executive equipment?" Morris's partner cut in, his doubt obvious. "The security footage will confirm the sequence of events," Isaiah said calmly. "Camera 4, North Lobby feed. Multiple witnesses were present, including Security Chief Brent Kellen." Morris made a note, frowning. "And you just happen to know how to fix a high-end laptop?" "I spent 12 years in IT and cybersecurity before corporate downsizing. My complete employment history is available. I performed only basic diagnostic steps within standard protocols." Naomi watched from the kitchen, gripping her coffee mug too tight. The detective's questions grew more pointed, trying to trap Isaiah in contradictions. But her father's answers remained measured, supported by specific details that could be verified. "The screen restored to its previous state," Isaiah explained. "I saw what was already open but accessed nothing else. Ms. Harrow's reaction suggested the content was sensitive, but I had no way to know that beforehand." "So you admit you saw confidential information?" Morris jumped on the statement. "I admit I saw whatever was already displayed when the system recovered. I made no attempts to explore, copy, or interact with any files." The questioning continued for nearly an hour. Isaiah maintained his composure while the detectives grew increasingly frustrated by their inability to rattle him. Finally, Morris closed his notepad. "We'll be in touch if we need anything else. Don't leave town." After they left, Naomi rushed to hug her father. Isaiah held her tight, feeling her trembling. "I'm okay," he assured her. "They're trying to scare us, but we have truth on our side." He called Dean immediately, putting it on speaker. While Naomi started making breakfast, they both knew they wouldn't really eat. "Those cops showed up fast," Dean growled. "Vivian's already pushed through your termination paperwork. She's got building security running interference, trying to lock down access to surveillance footage and entry logs." Isaiah's phone buzzed with a text from Lila. "Warning! Cameras under review." "You know what that means. Moving fast." "They're going to erase everything," Naomi whispered, setting down plates of untouched toast. Isaiah stared at his careful timeline notes. "This isn't just about clearing my name anymore. They've got a whole machine for crushing people who see too much. If we don't expose how it works, they'll just keep doing it to others." Father and daughter sat at their small table, picking at cold breakfast, while mapping out the next hours. Isaiah wrote out a detailed plan: who to call, what documents to gather, which witnesses to contact before pressure silenced them. "I'll email my professors," Naomi said. "Explain why I might miss class." "No," Isaiah touched her hand. "You keep your routine exactly the same. Don't let them disrupt your education. That's what they want." At 8:30 a.m., Isaiah met Dean outside to walk to the union office. They needed to file formal grievances, document the retaliation pattern, request preservation of evidence. Dean was mid-sentence about precedent cases when both their phones buzzed. An email from Vivian's attorneys. Any attempts to defame Ms. Harrow or mischaracterize events would result in immediate legal action. The threat was wrapped in elegant legal language, but the message was clear: stay quiet or be crushed. The fluorescent lights in the union office buzzed overhead as Dean pulled up a chair next to Isaiah at the conference table. Coffee cups and legal pads covered the scratched surface. Dean's office felt like a bunker, windowless but secure, with filing cabinets lining the walls and a worn American flag hanging in the corner. "Let's see them try to dodge a direct request," Dean muttered, putting his phone on speaker. He dialed building security while Isaiah uncapped his pen, ready to document every word. 3 rings. Then Brent Kellen's voice oozed through the speaker. "Security operations, this is Chief Kellen." "Brent, this is Dean Rourke from Local 4117. We need access to the executive floor and lobby camera footage from last night, specifically around midnight." "Oh, Dean." Brent's tone dripped with false concern. "Unfortunately, we experienced a system malfunction in that sector last night. The relevant feeds are unavailable." Isaiah's pen moved steadily across the paper, noting the exact time and Brent's precise wording. Dean's face reddened. "That's interesting, considering multiple witnesses saw those cameras working perfectly during the incident," Dean pressed. "When exactly did this malfunction occur?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss system details," Brent replied smoothly. "But while we're talking, I should mention we've had several complaints about Isaiah Brooks showing aggressive behavior toward executives. Very concerning pattern." Isaiah's hand tightened on his pen, but his writing remained steady. He'd expected this: the character assassination, the manufactured history. Dean caught his eye and nodded slightly. "Keep documenting." "That's a serious allegation," Dean said. "I'll need those complaints in writing, with dates and witnesses." "I'm sure you understand these matters are confidential," Brent deflected. "We're simply concerned about workplace safety." The lie was too polished, too rehearsed. Isaiah recognized the technique from his IT days. When systems were compromised, the cover-up always followed established patterns. This wasn't random cruelty. It was coordinated destruction of evidence. After Dean ended the call, his phone buzzed with a text from Lila. "Had to use personal phone. Someone accessed camera archives at 2 a.m. Badge logs might show who. Can't send files yet. Watching my access. Check with retention vendor. Secure tech systems. They handle off-site backups. Isaiah straightened, mind racing through the system architecture he'd learned during his tech career. Deletion leaves traces, he explained to Dean. Even if they wipe the footage, there could be audit logs, storage alerts, sync records with the backup vendor. Everything connects. Dean nodded grimly and started pulling forms from his filing cabinet. Emergency grievance hearing at 2 p.m. We need your full statement. Times, locations, witnesses, every detail you can remember. For the next 2 hours, Isaiah reconstructed the previous night with surgical precision. His statement grew to 6 pages, each interaction mapped with exact timestamps and badge scan records that could verify his locations. He included floor plans marking camera positions and a list of employees present during Vivian's proposal. We request immediate preservation of all security footage, access logs, and system audit trails, Isaiah dictated while Dean typed, including but not limited to badge reader histories, camera archive modifications, vendor backup transmissions, and security office entry records between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Dean printed multiple copies as Isaiah reviewed each page. They're trying to erase you from the system, Dean said. But systems remember more than they think. They assume janitors don't understand technology, Isaiah replied. That's their mistake. I spent years learning how corporate networks protect themselves. Now I'll use that knowledge to protect myself. His phone vibrated. Naomi's name flashed on the screen. Dad? Her voice was shaking. The scholarship office just called. They want me to come in for a meeting about concerns that have been raised. They wouldn't tell me what concerns. Isaiah's chest tightened, but he kept his voice calm. When's the meeting? Tomorrow morning. Dad, if I lose this scholarship... Listen to me carefully, Isaiah said, meeting Dean's worried gaze across the table. This is not about you. They're using you to pressure me. We're going to document everything, just like I taught you. Write down who called, what exactly they said, and what time. We'll handle this together. After assuring Naomi he'd be home soon, Isaiah turned to Dean. They're moving faster than we expected. Going after my daughter's education. That's their pressure point. Dean gathered the grievance paperwork with angry efficiency. Classic intimidation. They think threatening your kid will make you back down. He checked his watch. Grievance hearing in 40 minutes. You ready? Isaiah stood, straightening his tie. They expect me to either lash out or give up. But I've spent years being underestimated. They don't understand. My daughter is why I won't stop until the truth comes out. The scholarship office smelled of old paper and anxiety. Naomi sat rigid in a leather chair while her phone rested on the desk, set to speaker mode. Isaiah's voice came through clear but distant. He couldn't leave the union office with the grievance hearing approaching, but he refused to let Naomi face this alone. Miss Porter, the scholarship officer, shuffled papers with practiced precision. Her blazer was perfectly pressed, her smile professionally concerned. We've received some concerning information that we need to address, she began, each word measured. It pertains to the stability of your home environment. Naomi's hands tightened in her lap. My home environment is fine. We have a report indicating your father is under active investigation. Ms. Porter's tone stayed neutral, but her eyes flickered to the phone. Given the serious nature of the allegations... What specific allegations? Isaiah's voice cut through, calm but firm. And when exactly was this report received? Ms. Porter hesitated. I'm afraid I can't disclose the source, but the tip came in early this morning. It suggests involvement in corporate data theft and aggressive workplace behavior. Naomi recognized the words from her father's account of Vivian's accusations. Her throat tightened. They were really doing this, using her education as leverage. I'll need that in writing, Isaiah said. Please specify which scholarship policies address anonymous accusations against family members. I'd also like documentation of your standard procedure for investigating tips received without evidence. Ms. Porter's professional mask slipped slightly. She clearly hadn't expected this level of composed resistance. Mr. Brooks, we take all potential risks to our program seriously. As do we, Isaiah replied, which is why we'll need copies of all communications regarding this matter, including timestamps of when the tip was received and how it was verified before this meeting was called. Naomi straightened in her chair, drawing strength from her father's steady voice. I maintain a 3.9 GPA, she added. I've never missed a class. I tutor other students. Are those achievements suddenly irrelevant because someone made anonymous accusations? Of course not, Ms. Porter backpedaled slightly. We're simply following protocol. Please provide that protocol in writing, Isaiah requested. Along with previous cases where scholarship students were called in for emergency meetings based on unsubstantiated claims about their parents. The office fell silent except for the soft whir of an ancient printer in the corner. Miss Porter's fingers drummed once on her desk before she caught herself. We'll need to review the situation further, she finally said. For now, your scholarship status remains under evaluation. We'll be in touch once we've gathered more information. We'll expect full documentation of this meeting and the review process by end of day, Isaiah said. Thank you for your time. After disconnecting, Naomi gathered her backpack with trembling hands. The hallway outside felt too bright, too exposed. Students streamed past, laughing about normal things like assignments and weekend plans. None of them knew her future was being used as a weapon. The bus ride home stretched endless. Naomi kept checking over her shoulder, jumping at sudden movements. When she finally reached their apartment door, her key stuck in the lock. Her hands were shaking too badly. That's when she saw it. A single sheet of paper had been slid under the door. Bold black letters screamed, "Corporate Data Thief," above a grainy security camera, still of her father being escorted out. No racial slurs, no obvious threats, just the message that he'd been marked, branded, labeled as someone who didn't belong. Naomi was still staring at it when Isaiah arrived home early from the union office. He took one look at her face and the paper in her hands, then gently guided her inside. "Sit down," he said, pulling out his phone. "I'm going to teach you something important." He demonstrated how to photograph the flyer with a ruler beside it for scale, how to document the exact time and location it was found, how to note any distinguishing details about the paper quality or printing method. Write down everything you remember about finding it, he instructed. Time, date, was anyone in the hallway? Did you hear anything unusual? Every detail matters. They're watching us, Naomi whispered, pen hovering over paper. They want us to feel watched, Isaiah corrected. They want us scared. But we're going to be methodical instead. A knock at the door made them both jump. But it was just Dean, his face grim as he held up a thick envelope. Vivian's lawyers, he explained, pulling out a letter heavy with legal letterhead. They're demanding you retract any false accusations about last night. Say it was all a misunderstanding. Or they'll sue for defamation. Naomi's breath caught. They can't. They can try, Isaiah said quietly. He looked at the flyer, the lawsuit threat, then at his daughter's pale face. But we're not retreating. We're building a case. Every threat, every intimidation attempt, it all becomes evidence. Streetlights cast long shadows through the kitchen window as Isaiah spread documents across the table. Dean sat heavily in a wooden chair, rubbing his neck after the long day. Paper spilled everywhere. Employee handbooks, security policies, union agreements, building maintenance schedules. Look at this like a system, Isaiah said, arranging pages in precise columns. Everything connects. Every action leaves traces. Dean leaned forward, squinting at Isaiah's careful notes. You said you worked in tech before? What exactly did you do? Isaiah paused, then pulled out his old business card, edges worn from years in his wallet. Cybersecurity analyst, specialized in digital forensics and incident response. Before the downsizing, before the medical bills, he shook his head. But the skills don't fade. That's why you handled the laptop so carefully, Dean realized. You knew what you were doing. I treated it like a crime scene, Isaiah confirmed. No unauthorized access, no damaged data, basic diagnostic steps only. Everything by the book. He tapped a building blueprint. And now, we treat this whole place the same way. Every system holds truth if you know where to look. He began mapping it out, drawing connections between different records. Badge readers log every door swipe. Elevator controls track floor stops. Maintenance tickets show who accessed what areas. Security cameras have retention policies. Nothing happens in isolation. Dean whistled low. You're not planning to hack anything, right? We need this clean. No hacking, Isaiah assured him. We reconstruct from legal sources, public records, union-accessible logs, proper information requests. He pointed to his notes from the night of the incident. Remember seeing anyone unusual in Vivian's group? Dean frowned, thinking back. Suits, mostly. Security. Wait, there was someone toward the back. Contractor badge clip on their belt. Exactly. Isaiah circled several items on his list. If an unauthorized contractor accessed her laptop or the security systems, there's a paper trail. Work orders, dispatch records, invoice timestamps. Companies document everything to get paid. I can request those through official channels, Dean said, pulling out his phone to make notes. Unions entitled to verify vendor activity for safety compliance. Isaiah nodded, then started drafting a formal letter. We need to demand they preserve all digital records, camera system audit logs, access records, email retention. Before anything else, malfunctions. His phone buzzed. A message from Lila. GeneTech Security Center, plus CHID I-Class SER40 reader at security room door. Dean looked confused. What's that mean? She's telling us the exact systems they use, Isaiah explained, writing down the details. That camera platform logs every view, export, and deletion. The door reader captures all access attempts, authorized or not. Nothing disappears without leaving traces. He drew a timeline on fresh paper, marking key moments. Vivian's laptop failure, the marriage taunt, security footage deletion, badge access patterns. We build this piece by piece. Every record they create trying to bury the truth actually makes our case stronger. They won't expect this level of detail, Dean said, watching Isaiah's methodical documentation. They think they're dealing with a janitor who will break under pressure. That's their mistake. Isaiah's voice stayed calm, but his jaw tightened. They see the mop, not the mind. They don't realize that understanding systems, that's how you prove what really happened. He started organizing papers into labeled folders, building records, security logs, vendor documentation, witness statements, each piece of evidence carefully noted with time, date, and source. We request everything through proper channels, Isaiah continued. No shortcuts, no gray areas they can use against us. Just facts they can't erase because their own systems recorded them. Dean's phone lit up with a union lawyer's response about records requests. Legal team's on board. They say your documentation approach is exactly what we need. Isaiah nodded, checking his watch. Almost midnight. The kitchen felt too quiet, too exposed. He'd sent Naomi to stay with her aunt, not wanting her alone in the apartment. Someone touched that laptop before it crashed, he said, reviewing his notes. Someone accessed those security recordings after hours. Someone's coordinating this pressure campaign. Systems don't lie. People do. We follow the records until they show us who. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. He opened the message and froze. A photo filled the screen. Naomi walking to her car in the campus parking lot, taken less than an hour ago. No threat text, no demands, just the image, proof they were watching his daughter. Dean saw Isaiah's expression change. "What is it?" Isaiah set the phone down carefully, forcing his hands not to shake. The photo joined his evidence folder, marked with time and date. Even their intimidation attempts would become part of the record. "Keep documenting," he said quietly. "Every move they make tells us more about who they really are." The morning rush packed the diner with construction workers and office staff grabbing breakfast. Plates clattered, and conversations merged into a protective wall of noise. Isaiah and Dean chose a corner booth far from windows, where Lila waited, her coffee untouched and growing cold. Her navy blazer looked freshly pressed, but her hands trembled as she gripped the ceramic mug. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered, glancing around. "They watch everything now." "Take your time," Isaiah said quietly. The waitress stopped by and he ordered coffee for himself and Dean. The routine interaction seemed to steady Lila's nerves. Dean leaned forward, keeping his voice low. "Whatever you have, we'll protect the source." Lila reached into her purse and slid a small USB drive across the table, concealed under a napkin. "I could only get part of it. They're purging the system, but I saved what I could access with my clearance." Isaiah pocketed the drive, while Dean provided cover, spreading union paperwork across the table. The waitress returned with their coffees, and they waited until she moved on. "It shows everything," Lila continued, her voice barely audible. "The marriage comment, the laughter, how quickly she turned on you when the laptop worked." She wrapped her arms around herself. "The way she performed for the crowd, making sure everyone saw her power." "How much of the footage?" Dean asked, making notes that looked like meeting minutes to any observer. "About 6 minutes, from when she first spotted Isaiah to just after security grabbed him. The quality is clear. You can see faces, hear voices." Lila's fingers twisted a paper napkin. "But I couldn't get the later sections showing them deleting evidence. Those files were already locked down." Isaiah nodded slowly. 6 minutes is enough to show the pattern. The deliberate humiliation, then immediate retaliation when it backfired. "I know a journalist," Dean said. "Tessa Klein. She covers labor issues, corporate corruption. Good reputation, careful with sources." He looked at Layla. "We won't mention you unless you choose to come forward." "I can't," Lila whispered. "Not yet. I have to think about my family, too." Her phone buzzed and she flinched. "I should go. Different routes, different times. That's safer." They watched her leave, taking a circuitous path through the crowded diner. Isaiah stirred his coffee, untasted. "She's risking everything." "So did you," Dean reminded him, "by staying calm and professional when Vivian tried to break you." He pulled out his phone. "Let me call Tessa now. The sooner this gets out, the harder it is to bury." Isaiah listened as Dean made the call, explaining the situation in careful terms. They arranged to meet Tessa in an hour at her newspaper's office. The journalist worked fast. By early afternoon, the clip appeared online with context about workplace retaliation and abuse of power. Social media erupted. Local news picked up the story. Comments flooded in about corporate toxicity and racial dynamics in tech companies. Isaiah watched from his apartment as the view count climbed. The footage showed exactly what happened. Vivian's calculated cruelty, the encouraged laughter, Isaiah's dignified response, and her instant switch to accusations when he succeeded. His phone rang, Naomi's scholarship office. The administrator's tone had completely changed from yesterday's threats. "In light of new information, we're placing the review on hold," she said carefully. "Your daughter's academic standing remains excellent. We see no cause for concern at this time." After hanging up, Isaiah allowed himself a small breath of relief. Naomi hugged him, tears in her eyes. "People finally see it, Dad. They see what she did to you." By mid-afternoon, Vivian's PR team released a statement. Isaiah read it on his laptop, recognizing the calculated corporate language. Regarding this morning's video, I acknowledge that my attempt at workplace humor was inappropriate and poorly received. I deeply respect all our employees and never intended to cause offense. This was clearly a miscommunication that escalated unnecessarily. Our company remains committed to fostering an inclusive environment where everyone feels valued. I apologize for any distress this incident may have caused. The words were polished, but the accompanying video showed Vivian's true feelings. Her eyes were cold, her smile tight and artificial. She spoke about respect, while her body language screamed contempt. Still, public pressure mounted. Comments criticized her non-apology and called for investigation. Corporate watchdog groups started asking questions about executive conduct and retaliation patterns. "Look at these responses," Naomi said, scrolling through her phone. "People are sharing their own stories about workplace abuse." "You're not alone anymore, Dad." For the first time in days, Isaiah felt hope flutter in his chest. The truth was out there now, recorded and undeniable. Maybe sunlight really was the best disinfectant. Maybe. His phone rang. Dean's number. "Isaiah." Dean's voice was strained, with hospital sounds in the background. "Don't react out loud, but listen carefully. I'm at Metro General. Took a bad fall down the back stairwell at work about an hour ago." Isaiah kept his face neutral for Naomi's sake, but his hand tightened on the phone. "3 cracked ribs," Dean continued. "But here's what you need to know. I didn't fall. Someone pushed me. Hard. And they made sure I knew it wasn't an accident." The evening shadows stretched across Isaiah's apartment complex when 3 sharp knocks echoed through his door. Naomi, doing homework at the kitchen table, froze mid-sentence in her textbook. Isaiah recognized the authoritative pattern. Police again. He opened the door to find 2 detectives, their faces set in practiced neutrality. Behind them, Brent Kellen loomed with his arms crossed, security badge gleaming under the hallway fluorescence. The same detective from before held up a clear evidence bag containing a black USB drive. "Mr. Brooks," the detective said, "we need to discuss a concerning discovery at your former workplace." Isaiah kept his voice steady. "I'd like to document this conversation." He positioned his phone on the entry table, recording light blinking. "Please continue." The detective's jaw tightened. "A USB drive was found near your assigned locker area during standard security sweeps. Initial forensics show it contains sensitive corporate files from Harrow Financial Technologies." "That's impossible," Isaiah said calmly. "My access cards were surrendered during termination. The area has been inaccessible to me since then." Brent stepped forward, his smile sharp. "The cleaning staff reported suspicious activity near that section last week. We have it logged." Isaiah noticed the careful construction. Suspicious activity was vague enough to suggest anything, while proving nothing. He kept his face neutral despite the anger burning in his chest. "I'll need the exact time and date of this alleged discovery," Isaiah said, along with chain of custody documentation and the forensics report showing file creation dates. The detective's expression soured at Isaiah's composed response. "We can discuss details down at the station. Right now, we need you to come with us for questioning." From the kitchen doorway, Naomi's phone chimed. Her sharp intake of breath drew Isaiah's attention. She held up the screen, hands trembling. "Scholarship status update. Suspended." The timing wasn't coincidental. Isaiah watched Brent's satisfied smirk deepen. "I'll be happy to answer questions," Isaiah said carefully, "with my attorney present. Please provide the case number and investigating officer's contact information." "Playing it formal won't help you," Brent said, stepping closer. "The evidence is clear. You accessed restricted data, tried to steal it, and now you're lying about it." Isaiah held his ground. "Everything about that USB drive is fabricated, and we both know it. The metadata won't match your timeline. The access logs will show inconsistencies, and there will be camera footage of whoever planted it. Bold accusations, the detective said, from someone in your position. My position, Isaiah repeated quietly, is that of a witness to systematic retaliation. Every move you make leaves a trail. Digital signatures, timestamp conflicts, access records that don't align with your story. Naomi's phone chimed again. She read the new message, her voice shaking. Due to ongoing legal concerns, immediate suspension of all financial aid, pending resolution of investigation. The detective handed Isaiah a document listing the alleged evidence. Through the apartment's thin walls, a neighbor's television droned. The hallway fluorescent light flickered, casting strange shadows across Brent's satisfied face. We'll be in touch, the detective said. Don't leave town. After they left, Isaiah locked the door and turned to find Naomi holding a bright orange notice that had been slipped under their door earlier. A warning from the landlord about late rent. His phone rang. Tessa Klein's number. Isaiah, she said without preamble, Vivian's lawyers are breathing fire. They're threatening the station with a defamation suit unless we retract the story and issue an apology. They're claiming the footage was selectively edited to remove context. The footage shows exactly what happened, Isaiah said. I know, but they're throwing around terms like malicious intent and coordinated smear campaign. The station's legal team is getting nervous. Tessa's frustration was clear. And now they're sending documentation about this USB drive discovery. Isaiah's jaw tightened. Planted evidence. I can prove it if… Isaiah, she cut in gently. I believe you. But they're building a wall of paperwork and legal pressure. The station might cave just to avoid the fight. His phone beeped. Another call trying to come through. The number belonged to Lila's department at HR. I have to go, he told Tessa. Keep me posted. He switched lines. Hello? This is Sharon Martinez from Human Resources. An unfamiliar voice said. I'm calling to inform you that Lila Grant is currently on administrative leave and unable to assist with any ongoing matters. Please direct all inquiries to our legal department. The line went dead before he could respond. He tried texting Lila directly. Are you okay? The message showed as delivered, but remained unread. Naomi gathered the growing stack of papers, the police report, the scholarship suspension, the rent warning, the USB drive documentation. Her hands trembled as she set them on the kitchen table. Dad, she whispered. What do we do? Isaiah picked up the police report about the USB drive, his fingers tight on the pages. The familiar pressure of injustice threatened to overwhelm him. The same feeling he'd fought when laid off years ago, when medical bills crushed them, when every system seemed designed to break his spirit. They want me to snap, he said quietly to Naomi. So, I'm going to stay precise. Dawn crept through the kitchen blinds, painting tired stripes across scattered documents and coffee mugs. Isaiah and Naomi hadn't really slept. The weight of yesterday's threats kept them alert, planning. The small kitchen table had become their war room, covered in papers, sticky notes, and Naomi's laptop. We need something they can't delete, Isaiah said, reaching for a weathered green notebook from his work bag. The spine was creased from years of use, pages dog-eared and filled with his precise handwriting. Naomi rubbed her eyes, fighting exhaustion. What's that? Insurance, Isaiah answered, laying the notebook flat. Every shift, every floor, everything unusual. I've logged it all. Started the habit during my IT days when documentation saved my team from blame during system crashes. He flipped through the pages, each one filled with methodical entries. Dates, times, locations, notes about broken equipment, suspicious activities, or maintenance issues. Some entries had small diagrams or lists of names. You wrote down everything? Naomi leaned closer, scanning the neat columns. People ignore the janitor, Isaiah said, finding the entry from the humiliation night. Makes it easier to see what they're trying to hide. His finger traced the timeline. Midnight rounds on the executive floor, Vivian's laptop incident, the security escort out. But there, between entries, was a detail that seemed minor at the time. A note about someone wearing a vendor badge near the executive suite well after normal contractor hours. "Look at this," he showed Naomi. "Maintenance vendors usually finish by 10 p.m. Building policy. But I saw one that night, around 11:45 p.m., just before Vivian's laptop conveniently failed." Naomi grabbed her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. "The building uses Johnston Technical Services for after-hours maintenance, right? Their dispatch records should be public. It's a regulated service provider." Isaiah nodded, pride mixing with his exhaustion as he watched his daughter think like an investigator. He pulled out his phone and called Johnston's 24-hour service line, putting it on speaker. "Johnston Technical. How can I help you?" A tired voice answered. "I need to verify a service call from last Tuesday night," Isaiah said. "I'm with building operations doing a schedule audit. Can you email me the dispatch log for that evening?" "Sure. What's the building code and your email?" Isaiah provided the details, keeping his voice professional and matter-of-fact. Years of IT work had taught him that confidence and the right terminology usually got results. While they waited for the dispatch record, Isaiah opened his laptop and began filing formal records requests across multiple systems: elevator service logs, emergency door access reports, security room badge reader audit trails, parking garage entry records, and HVAC maintenance schedules. "They track everything but don't connect the dots," he explained to Naomi. "Each system has its own logs, its own truth. We just need to line them up." Naomi created a digital folder structure, organizing their evidence by type and date. She photographed Isaiah's notebook entries and added them to the timeline. "What about the security footage Lila mentioned?" she asked. "Camera systems keep metadata even when files are deleted," Isaiah said. "Access logs, file operations, storage alerts. We request those records through the vendor. Bypass Brent completely." He paused, remembering something from his IT days. "And most corporate security systems automatically back up to off-site storage. They might have deleted local copies, but there's usually a 30-day archive they forget about." Naomi's phone buzzed. Tessa Klein had texted a name and number. Maya Feldman, whistleblower attorney. "She specializes in corporate retaliation cases," Naomi read from Maya's online profile. "Takes on big companies, wins settlements." Isaiah studied Maya's credentials before dialing. The call went to voicemail, but he left a detailed message explaining their situation and the evidence they were gathering. To his surprise, Maya called back within minutes. "Mr. Brooks," her voice was sharp and focused. "Tessa briefed me on your case. I'm interested, but we need to move fast. Can you meet this afternoon?" "Yes," Isaiah said. "What should we bring?" "Everything," Maya replied. "Your notes, the video clip, any formal complaints filed, and especially those system logs you're requesting. We need a clean chain of evidence, timestamps that match, access records that align, documentation they can't dismiss. Vivian Harrow has resources and connections. She'll try to bury this under legal pressure and planted evidence." "Understood," Isaiah said. "We'll be ready." After scheduling the meeting, Isaiah and Naomi returned to organizing their documentation. She created spreadsheets tracking every interaction, every threat, every suspicious timing of events. Isaiah's email pinged. The Johnston dispatch record had arrived. He opened it, Naomi leaning in to read over his shoulder. The log showed exactly what they needed. An unscheduled contractor visit to the executive floor, cleared by Brent's security code, perfectly timed with the laptop incident. See how the dispatch request is marked priority, but has no service reason listed? Isaiah pointed out. Regular maintenance would have a work order number and description. Naomi added the dispatch log to their evidence folder, cross-referencing it with Isaiah's notebook entry about the vendor badge. "They thought nobody would notice," she said quietly. "They thought nobody would check." That's how retaliation works, Isaiah replied, his voice steady. They count on fear and isolation. But we're not alone anymore. And we have something they didn't expect. What's that? Proof, Isaiah said, looking at their growing collection of evidence. Real, documented proof that tells the whole story. His phone lit up with another email. The first batch of elevator service logs had arrived. Maya Feldman's downtown office felt different from the glossy corporate spaces Isaiah had cleaned. Practical furniture, walls lined with legal texts, and a large conference table covered in meticulously organized documents. Late afternoon sun filtered through vertical blinds, casting stripes across their evidence folders. Isaiah sat with perfect posture, his voice measured and technical. Every digital system leaves traces, he explained, opening his laptop. When security footage is accessed or deleted, the system logs who did it, when, and from which workstation. Maya leaned forward, pen poised over her legal pad. Her sharp eyes tracked every detail as Isaiah walked through the technical architecture. Naomi sat beside him, managing their digital files, while Tessa Klein took careful notes from the corner. "Show me exactly what you mean," Maya said. Isaiah pulled up a diagram he'd created. "The building uses standard guard security software. Even if someone deletes camera footage, 3 things remain. Access logs showing who viewed files, export records tracking when copies were made, and storage alerts noting sudden space changes from deletions. And these logs, they're maintained separately from the footage?" Maya asked. "Completely separate systems," Isaiah confirmed. "Different servers, different backup schedules. Most people forget about the audit trail because they focus on deleting the visible evidence." Maya nodded, writing rapidly. "This is exactly what we need. Clean, documented, legitimate access to records they probably think are gone." She turned to a fresh page. "Walk me through the timeline again. Every system we should target." Isaiah laid out their findings methodically. First, badge access logs showing who entered the security room that night. Then, elevator records proving when executives and contractors moved between floors. The vendor dispatch system showing an unscheduled maintenance visit. Building management logs tracking door access and security overrides. All public records are available through formal requests, Maya noted with approval. No unauthorized access needed. Tessa spoke up from her corner. "I can frame this carefully. Stick to verified facts without speculation. Focus on documented events and official records. They'll have a harder time threatening legal action if we stay precise." Naomi opened a folder on her laptop. "We also have evidence of ongoing harassment." She pulled up the surveillance photo they'd received, her walking to her car, clearly taken without her knowledge. "They're trying to scare us, but they're just creating more proof." Maya examined the photo's metadata. Good instinct documenting this without escalating. It shows a pattern of intimidation. She made another note. "We'll include it in the filing but won't lead with it. Let's build the technical case first." Isaiah spread out his shift logs. "Everything's dated and detailed. I noted the contractor badge near midnight, Vivian's laptop incident, and Brent's involvement. Never touched their systems, just observed and documented." "That's crucial," Maya said. "They'll try to paint you as a hacker or data thief. But you've only used proper channels in public records." She started drafting documents on her computer. "I'm preparing preservation demands for everything. Camera system audit logs, security room access records, vendor contracts, maintenance dispatch records, and Vivian's calendar entries from that period." "Will they comply?" Naomi asked. "They have to," Maya explained. "Once they receive formal notice, destroying evidence becomes a serious offense. And based on what Isaiah's shown me, they've already crossed several lines with the initial deletion and planted USB drive." Tessa reviewed her notes. "I'll update my coverage focusing solely on documented events. No conjecture, no emotional angles, just the paper trail and official records." Let readers draw their own conclusions. Isaiah nodded. That's all we need. The truth is in the timestamps and system logs. They tell the story themselves. Maya finished a document and turned her screen. Here's our initial filing. Notice how we lead with the technical evidence and documented retaliation. The emotional elements, the humiliation, the threats, support the pattern, but aren't our primary focus. We're building a wall of facts, Isaiah said quietly. Each log entry, each record request, each timestamp, they're bricks they can't break. Exactly, Maya agreed. You've given us the perfect approach. We don't need to prove everything at once. We just need to show enough verified evidence to force discovery. Once they have to preserve and produce records, the whole system of harassment becomes visible. They spent another hour refining the documentation. Maya formatted everything for court filing, while Tessa crafted her story to withstand legal scrutiny. Naomi organized their growing evidence database, creating clear links between related documents and events. They'll hit back hard, Maya warned as they finished. Once Vivian realizes we have real legal leverage and documented proof, she'll escalate. Be prepared for more pressure, more threats. We're ready, Isaiah said calmly. Everything they do just adds to our evidence. I learned in IT, systems don't lie if you know how to read them. Maya gathered the final papers. Good. Remember, we win clean. No matter what they throw at us, we stay focused on facts and records. As they left Maya's office building, Isaiah spotted a familiar figure across the street. Brent Kellen stood in a doorway, watching them with his characteristic smirk. When he saw Isaiah notice him, he pulled out his phone, made a call, and smiled. The same cold smile from the night of the humiliation. Naomi gripped her father's arm. Isaiah kept walking, his face neutral. One more documented incident, one more piece of evidence. The truth was already in motion. The evening air had a bitter chill as Dean Rourke stood outside the building's entrance, leaning on his cane. His face was mottled with bruises, but his eyes burned with determination. Isaiah approached carefully, noting how Dean favored his left side. They thought stairs would shut me up, Dean said, his voice rough but steady. Should have tried harder. He pulled a folded printout from his jacket, hands shaking slightly from either pain or anger. Got this before they locked everything down. Isaiah unfolded the paper under the harsh glow of security lights. It was a badge access report, columns of timestamps and ID numbers showing entry patterns to the security monitoring room. His IT experience kicked in immediately as he scanned the data. Look at these timestamps, Dean pointed with his cane. 3 entries after midnight when the security office should have been empty, all using an admin override. Isaiah pulled out the contractor dispatch record he'd received earlier. Same night as Vivian's laptop incident. He lined up the times carefully. Here, contractor dispatched at 11:45 p.m., security room accessed at 12:10 a.m., and camera archives accessed at 12:15 a.m. Too neat to be coincidence, Dean growled. Someone's getting sloppy covering tracks. Isaiah took photos of both documents with his phone, careful to capture every detail. Maya needs to see this immediately. If they're already destroying records. Already texted her, Dean confirmed. She's filing an emergency motion tonight. Judge owes her a favor and might hear it first thing tomorrow. They moved away from the building's entrance as a security vehicle cruised past, its headlights sweeping across them. Isaiah noticed how Dean's grip tightened on his cane, knuckles white. You should be home resting, Isaiah said quietly. Rest when we win, Dean muttered. Besides, these bruises, they're just more evidence now. Maya's response came within minutes. She wanted them at the courthouse early morning. The company's lawyers were already pushing back, claiming technical limitations prevented quick access to archived logs. Standard playbook, Isaiah explained as they waited for his rideshare. Delay until evidence disappears. But they forgot something basic. He pulled up the building's vendor contract on his phone. Public record buried in city permits. See this clause? Mandatory retention requirements for all security systems. Industry standard. Deleting logs early isn't just suspicious, it's a contract violation. Dean's smile was fierce despite his bruises. And contract violations mean penalties. Plus spoliation of evidence once Maya filed notice, Isaiah added. They're trapped by their own paperwork. The loading dock area was poorly lit as they cut through to reach the street. A figure emerged from the shadows. Brent Kellen, his security uniform crisp despite the late hour. Well, Brent drawled, positioning himself to block their path. The janitor and his union babysitter. Out awful late, aren't you, boy? Isaiah calmly pulled out his phone and started recording. Brent's smile tightened but didn't fade. Just having a friendly chat, Brent continued, his tone dripping with false warmth. Reminding certain people about knowing their place. Wouldn't want anyone else having unfortunate accidents, would we? Dean shifted his grip on his cane, but Isaiah placed a steadying hand on his arm. Is that a threat, Mr. Kellen? Isaiah asked evenly, phone still recording. Just looking out for workplace safety, Brent replied. He stepped closer, towering over Isaiah. Lots of dangerous equipment around here. Easy for people to get hurt when they stick their noses where they don't belong. Like security room access logs? Isaiah kept his voice neutral. Something flickered in Brent's eyes. Uncertainty or anger, it was hard to tell in the dim light. You're in over your head, Brent snarled, dropping the fake friendliness. Some people just can't accept their station in life. Keep pushing, and you'll regret it. All on video, Mr. Kellen, Isaiah reminded him, holding the phone steady. Would you like to clarify any of those statements for the record? Brent's hand twitched toward Isaiah, but he caught himself. With a final sneer, he backed away into the shadows. Your choice, boy. Remember that, when it all comes down. They waited until Brent's footsteps faded before moving. Dean was breathing heavily, either from pain or suppressed rage. You got all that? He asked. Every word, Isaiah confirmed, sending the video to Maya immediately. Another brick in the wall. They finally reached the street just as Isaiah's phone rang. Maya's voice was tense, but satisfied. Judge granted emergency access, she reported. I cited the retention requirements and spoliation risks. They have to preserve everything now. Isaiah felt a weight lift slightly. What about existing logs? That's the best part, Maya said. Preliminary audit trails just came in. Guess whose admin credentials access the camera archives after hours? Our friend Brent Kellen's account, time-stamped and logged. Dean leaned in to hear better, wincing as he moved. They never check the backups, do they? They never do, Isaiah agreed. Systems don't lie. They just wait to be read correctly. Maya's voice crackled with urgency. I'm drafting subpoenas for the full logs now. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start connecting all these dots officially. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension as Isaiah adjusted his tie, standing tall beside Maya. Through the crowd, he spotted Vivian's entrance, a parade of expensive suits and clicking heels. She wore a cream-colored blazer that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her smile practiced, and television ready. Naomi gripped Isaiah's hand, her fingers trembling slightly. She looked so confident. Confidence isn't truth, Isaiah murmured, watching Vivian's performative grace as she greeted her legal team. Tessa Klein stood near the wall, press badge visible, notebook ready. She caught Isaiah's eye and gave a slight nod. She'd follow the facts. Nothing more. Inside the courtroom, the contrast was stark. Vivian's side overflowed with legal staff and corporate representatives. Isaiah's side held only family and truth. Maya with her meticulous files, Naomi with her quiet strength, and a few union supporters, including a still-bruised Dean Rourke. Judge Caroline Martinez called the hearing to order, her expression neutral but alert. Vivian's lead attorney, James Patterson, rose first, all polished charm and rehearsed concern. Your Honor, This is a simple case of a disgruntled employee attempting to fabricate outrage after being terminated for cause, Patterson began. Mr. Brooks accessed sensitive corporate data without authorization, then constructed an elaborate narrative of victimization when caught. The supposed humiliation video was selectively edited to create false context. Maya stood, her movements precise. Your Honor, we have a documented timeline that tells a very different story. She approached with exhibit folders. First, the original security footage showing Miss Dewey's Harrow's unprovoked "marry you" taunt and Mr. Brooks' professional response. The clip played on the courtroom screens. Isaiah kept his eyes forward as his humiliation replayed. Vivian's smirking offer, the laughter of her entourage, his own careful dignity. Within minutes of Mr. Brooks successfully repairing the laptop, Maya continued, Ms. Harrow's demeanor shifted dramatically. She immediately accused him of tampering and demanded his termination. This timing is crucial. She displayed a series of documents on the screens. Building security logs show unauthorized access to the camera archive room that night. The access was granted using administrative credentials belonging to Security Chief Brent Kellen, who had no legitimate reason to be there at that hour. Patterson jumped up. Objection, Your Honor. These logs could easily be falsified. If I may, Isaiah spoke clearly, addressing the judge. I worked in IT security for 15 years before circumstances forced a career change. I can explain exactly how these audit logs function. Judge Martinez nodded. Please do, Mr. Brooks. Isaiah stood, conscious of Vivian's cold stare. Digital systems create automatic records of who accesses what and when. These logs are separate from the files themselves. Deleting footage doesn't erase the record of who accessed it. It's like having a security guard write down everyone who enters a room, even if someone later removes items from that room. He pointed to specific entries in the logs. These timestamps show Chief Kellen's credentials accessing the archive at 12:15 a.m. The building's maintenance logs show an unscheduled contractor visit at 11:45 p.m., just before Ms. Harrow's laptop mysteriously failed. These systems don't coordinate lies. They simply record actions. Maya picked up the thread. The retaliation escalated systematically. A USB drive appeared near Mr. Brooks's old locker, but metadata shows it was created after his access was revoked. His daughter's scholarship faced sudden anonymous concerns. Union Representative Dean Rourke suffered a suspicious stairwell accident after requesting records. Vivian's perfectly maintained expression cracked slightly. She whispered urgently to Patterson, who tried to interrupt. Your Honor, this is speculation. The evidence is documented, Maya pressed. Each retaliatory action corresponds to moments when Mr. Brooks or his allies came close to exposing the truth. The pattern is clear. Judge Martinez studied the timeline carefully. Mr. Patterson, how do you explain the security room access logs? Patterson glanced at Vivian, whose composure was visibly slipping. Technical systems can be complex, Your Honor. Perhaps there was routine maintenance. The logs indicate file deletion commands, Isaiah added quietly. Not maintenance. Vivian's hand clenched her armrest, knuckles white. The judge noticed. Ms. Harrow, Judge Martinez addressed her directly. Were you aware of these system access events? Vivian's response came too quickly. I'm not involved in day-to-day security operations. Yet you personally directed Mr. Brooks's termination that night, Maya interjected. Before any investigation, before any documentation of alleged misconduct. The courtroom fell silent as Vivian's careful mask crumbled. Her face flushed with fury, then drained to a sickly pale. She grabbed Patterson's sleeve, whispering frantically. Judge Martinez raised her hand for silence. I've seen enough. I'm ordering a full investigation into these events, with particular focus on evidence tampering and witness intimidation. I'm also referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal review. Naomi's grip on Isaiah's hand tightened, half fear, half fierce pride. Across the aisle, Vivian's attorneys huddled around her like a shield, but couldn't hide her shaking hands or the rage distorting her features. The afternoon sun glinted off the building's glass facade as investigators' vehicles lined the street. Employee faces pressed against windows, watching the scene unfold below. News vans clustered near the entrance, cameras ready, reporters checking phones for updates. Brent Kellen strode through the lobby like he owned it, badge clipped to his belt. Same swagger he'd used to intimidate countless others. He didn't notice the investigators until they stepped into his path. 3 federal agents in dark suits, badges out. "Mr. Kellen," the lead agent said, loud enough for the lobby to hear. "We need to discuss your after-hours access to the security archives on the night of March 15th. Brent's face twitched. "I have authorization for all security areas, including deletion of evidence under legal hold." The agent held up a tablet displaying the audit logs, timestamps, access records, commands executed. "Your credentials were used to remove specific camera footage after Ms. Harrow's confrontation with Mr. Brooks." The lobby grew silent. Employees stopped pretending to work, openly watching now. Brent's confident posture crumbled as the agent continued reading from the logs. 12:15 a.m. Archive access. 12:17 a.m. File deletion. 12:20 a.m. System log modification attempt. The agent looked up. "That last one's particularly interesting. The system recorded your attempt to hide that you were hiding evidence." Brent's hand moved toward his phone. Another agent stepped closer, blocking the motion. "Sir, please keep your hands visible." Through the glass doors, Isaiah and Naomi arrived with Maya, watching the scene unfold. Tessa Klein stood nearby, recorder running, taking notes as Brent's facade cracked completely. "I was following protocol," Brent started. "Under whose orders?" the agent pressed. Before Brent could answer, commotion erupted near the elevators. Vivian emerged with her executive team, trying to project control even as it slipped away. Her heels clicked rapidly across the marble floor. "This is a misunderstanding," she announced to the lobby at large. "If Security Chief Kellen acted inappropriately, he did so without corporate authorization." "Ms. Harrow," Maya stepped forward, holding up her phone. "The subpoenaed emails tell a different story. Would you like me to read your message from 11:58 p.m. that night? The one where you ordered Mr. Kellen to handle the situation and make sure nothing survives to damage the company?" Vivian's practiced smile froze. Behind her, members of her executive team began stepping away, creating distance. "Or perhaps," Maya continued, "we should discuss the pressure you put on the police department to file charges, specifically after Mr. Brooks witnessed sensitive financial data on your laptop?" The elevator dinged. The board chairman emerged with corporate counsel, their expressions grim. "Ms. Harrow, the board has concluded an emergency session. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately." Vivian spun toward them. "You can't. I built this company." "The board's decision is unanimous," the chairman cut her off. "Security will escort you out." Not Brent this time. Different officers stepped forward, carrying a box of Vivian's personal items. The mighty CEO stood alone, her carefully constructed power stripped away in minutes. As Vivian was led toward the doors, employees she'd terrorized watched silently. No loyal supporters rushed to defend her. No allies stepped forward to share her disgrace. Only the click of cameras and reporters' questions followed her exit. Isaiah held Naomi's hand as they watched Vivian pass. She shot them a venomous glare but said nothing, her final attempt at intimidation falling flat against their quiet dignity. Brent was led out next, hands cuffed behind his back. His security badge, the symbol of his borrowed power, was already gone. The police chief approached Isaiah, extending an official letter. "Mr. Brooks, all charges are dropped. We'll be reviewing our response protocols to prevent similar incidents of misleading reports." Maya held up another document. The settlement agreement is finalized. Full compensation, plus the consulting position we discussed. She smiled. On your terms, as promised. A woman stepped forward from the crowd, Jessica Chen from the Community Education Foundation. Ms. Brooks, she addressed Naomi, your scholarship is fully reinstated, with an additional emergency grant added. We believe in supporting students who face unjust barriers. Naomi's eyes welled with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Isaiah watched reporters clustering around Maya as she explained the settlement's implications for corporate accountability. He saw employees who'd stayed silent now stepping forward to share their own stories of intimidation. The truth was flowing freely, washing away years of fear. Later that evening, Isaiah and Naomi sat at their kitchen table. The same table where they'd planned their defense, where they'd refused to break under pressure. Now it held a simple dinner and a stack of papers representing their victory. Settlement documents, scholarship reinstatement, consulting contract. They ate quietly for a while, processing the day's events. The setting sun cast warm light through their window, so different from the harsh fluorescence of the courtroom. Isaiah looked at the documents, then at his daughter's face. No longer afraid, but strong, proud. He smiled gently. They tried to erase us, he said softly. Instead, we rewrote the record. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.